Hey there, it's Joe Sonically Disruptive. How are you? So I am about ready to speak with Jason Bieler about his new upcoming album, and I will do that now. Let me just give him a call. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, sorry about that. My phone just puts everything into some kind of spam vortex.
How is it going? How are you dealing with this whole pandemic issue and all the political craziness? Where's your mind at? Seems
It is an interesting time to be alive. That's for sure.
I would say definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I've been I enjoy being home and isolated. So it doesn't. I mean, that part of it, like from a social aspect, hasn't really bothered me. And my day would involve getting up, and going right into the studio and spending my whole day there, and then coming out and hanging with the family at night. So,
Gotcha.
From a personal aspect, it's fine. The horrors that a lot of people have experienced just sucks.
Yeah, definitely.
I can't believe it. And then, I'm just kind of hoping, I'm being cautiously optimistic that by fall, the world will come back to some sense of normalcy, hopefully.
Yes.
And we can get back to, doing what we all do. But judging by the first week here of the year, I'm not holding my breath any longer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know what you mean. So is your studio at your house, or do you got a...
Yeah, I mean, we had a major studio in South Florida for a long time. I moved to North Carolina a few years back.
Okay.
So I took most of all the good stuff when we sold that and brought it into my house. So I am as decked out and I have no need for human contact whatsoever.
Perfect. That's always nice. So, okay, so you got a new album coming out on the 22nd. It is Jason Bieler and the Baron von Bilski Orchestra, Songs for the Apocalypse. I've listened to it. Very cool stuff. Was this stuff already written? Was the record already done and then you shopped it, or was this done after you got a record deal?
I own my own label and have for years.
Right.
I've been talking to Nick from Frontiers for a while, and I thought the idea of having accountability and a deadline from somebody else that wasn't me would be helpful.
Okay.
Because I can't really scream at myself.
Yeah.
So that was really appealing to me. The fact that they were trying to really branch out, they've obviously had a tremendous amount of success within the genres that they've been known for.
Yeah.
But they were kind of trying to widen the palette of the label, seemed appealing to me. But the whole record was written starting in March and was finished in May with everything, mixes and everything, mastering done. So,
Okay.
Yeah, there was nothing older. It was all kind of put together specifically for this record, and it wasn't shopped. I mean, it was more like a meeting of two people saying, "Hey, this would kind of be fun to,
Gotcha.
This way I don't have to scream at myself when things go wrong."
Right. So, kind of what's your writing kind of process like? Are you one of these? I've heard others say that they got this whole song that came to them in a dream, and that sounds crazy to me. Or are you somebody who you go in and every day you're just writing, and even if 20 of the ideas are crap, you might come up with something great with something. Are you somebody who just constantly works at it, or?
I write all the time.
Okay.
But it is very much like that. I wouldn't say in a dream.
Right.
My brain just kind of flows. So I tend to hear whole chunks of music, melodies, lyrics, and everything at the same time.
Really?
And then I kind of put it down. But I do it all the time. So it's kind of a combination of both.
Both.
I love. There's always music flowing in my head. If it's not in my head, I'm listening to it from somebody else's stuff. So it's just, I kind of hear music in one giant chunk. Tend to.
Okay. Gotcha. So, anyway, I think it's cool how, like, this record, it's what I love about it, and the stuff you've done previously, is I like that it's a good feeling of uneasiness, because, you don't know where it's going to go next, and I always find that refreshing myself.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's always been the way. I mean, I'm lucky that I've developed this kind of cultish following of people who encourage me and accept that that's the way I do things, and they kind of want the ride to throw them off at some point. If I made a straight up rock record, they'd kill me.
Yeah.
It's like they're kind of anticipating, like, okay, this is going to go left or right at any second, and they kind of embrace that. And it's the older I get, the more I appreciate them giving me that freedom, because a lot of artists never get that from their fan base.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, but that's also a product of the fact that I've always just digested so much music. I'm not a metalhead in its purest sense. I mean, I grew up listening to everything from the Beatles to Fifth Dimension to Motown, and even right now on my playlist is Barry Manilow, Meshuggah, Tom Waits, Jane's Addiction, Gojira.
Sure.
It's just, I listen to all music. If it's good music, I'm in, and it moves me. So I think that always gets mixed up in my head with whatever limited faculty I have from a mental operation standpoint, and comes out, in the music that I make. None of it's formulated.
Okay.
I never sit there and go, like, hey, wouldn't it be neat? I have to do something like this now because I just did something like that. It all really comes out as this is what I feel like doing now.
Okay. Yeah. I was just going to ask if any of that was kind of pre-planned, like a song like Anthem for Losers. You got you got power pop, electronica, you got country, and I didn't know if you sit there and be like, it'd be really cool if I combine Moby with Conway Twitty or something, I didn't know if you, or if it just naturally comes out, but you just
I
answered
think
that.
it all just gets, obviously on that, some of the lead kind of specific country things is Clay Cook from the Zach Brown Band, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But that's what's kind of so fun about all the guests on the record, is that I'm a massive fan of all these guys anyway. And they all kind of, like, I think I set up this ecosystem, and then they all came and visited and interpreted the music with their thing in it. You know what I mean? So, like, you get Clint Lowry doing this amazing thing on songs, and you get Bumblefoot, and you get Devin,
Yep.
and you get David Ellison, obviously. All these guys, they kind of all brought these other elements, which I think gives the record a little bit more depth and a little bit more width, because they're all, I can't speak highly enough of. It's so stupid because I have so many people on this record, and I can spend an hour talking about how I'm a fan of each one of them.
Yes.
And why.
Yep.
But it really is that. It's just so they're just badassery of the highest order.
Gotcha. So, I think maybe I'm mistaken. I think I heard in a previous interview that you did this whole thing on a laptop? Like.
Yeah, I had just purchased, because I'm that kind of guy, I love the latest and greatest. I bought the most powerful Mac laptop,
okay,
like, known to mankind.
Right.
And I have a lot of it outboard here, and I have a lot of studio stuff.
Yeah.
But with everything being in the box in terms of the record, the thing that really I found helped was I can jump back and forth really quickly, and everything's exactly how I left it between songs.
Right.
So I didn't get stuck, like, just being bored because I'm working on a song and it takes so long to recall the whole console that I was just going to finish whatever I was doing. Like, anytime I was like, no, I'm just not feeling that, I could just jump into anything else, no matter how different it sounded, instantaneously. And a lot of guys that I really admire, like Andrew Sheps and all these amazing mixers, are all in the box now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, there's nothing more fun and more sexually arousing than sitting in front of a massive SSL console with all the buttons.
Sure.
But there's nothing more creatively stimulating than being able to go in any direction at any time with no repercussions.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So do you use plugins as far as your guitar sound, or are you still micing amps, or kind of?
I'm with a company, I've been endorsed by a company called Victory, out of England.
Victory, yeah.
Yeah, they make awesome amps. So they had kind enough to send me a Super Kraken. So all my rhythm tones basically come from that, and then I went into an aux box by Universal Audio.
Okay.
So I was able to take that, and then I used the cab synth. So it's a real head with Celestion 30 cab synth digitally into an Apollo interface into the laptop.
Okay, all right. I got it. Yeah, because when I was listening to it, it almost made it sound, I figured you weren't using the cheapest laptop and the free version of GarageBand or something. Because yeah, I heard that interview and you're like, yeah, it's all on my laptop. I'm like, well, damn, I can't do anything. Like, I guess the production is really great on that album. So
awesome, man. Thanks so much. It was fun. I think because I had time and I was alone, I was able to put a little bit more time into things that I think a lot of new records don't focus on. Just circular panning things.
Right.
And just little textures and things like that I really because everybody listens on an iPhone anyway, or is listening to a, reduced MP3. So
Yeah.
I just figured for the people that do listen, I think that's what makes records. And not that I'm equating my record to a record that will last forever, but records that tend to last longer, like some of the great Pink Floyd stuff, is because there's depth in the production that you wind up rediscovering the more you listen, because there's stuff in it that you're just not going to hear in one or two listens. So every time you go back, even to a record from 20, 30 years ago, it's like, oh, I never heard that delay, or I never realized, I never listened to it. And so that's the kind of fun stuff. And I did it more self-indulgently, and obviously for the few people that would go, like, actually pay attention that close.
Yeah. I love that stuff when you can, it doesn't matter how many times you listen to it. If you listen carefully, you're always finding some little aspect of it that you just didn't pick up on. And it's, it adds so much to the experience, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah. So do you think, this goes back to the diversity thing, do you think the diversity of your music has hurt your musical career? I always think like a band like King's X, I always think that, you can't put them in a box, much like Saigon Kick, what you're doing now. You just can't, it's so hard to label, but in doing so, it seems like those bands kind of get left out a little bit because you're not in that clique. You're not, specifically in this one spot. And I don't know if you think about that, or if you think that has...
I think the same things that probably hurt us during the transition, because we were never really embraced by the hair metal community.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as a slam. I just don't know what else to call them.
Right, yep.
And we were never really accepted by the grunge music, the scene, because of we kind of came down the middle, not unlike King's X or a band like Extreme, maybe.
Sure.
Kind of floated in that middle ground. But I think the same, I've always maintained, at least from my writing perspective, the same kind of insanity. But that same insanity that hurt us then, I think, is what's making this record. The funny thing is, like, right now, this new record's, I don't even know what a hit record is anymore. It's doing really well, and it's getting put on these massive prog metal playlists. And, and those people have no idea what Saigon Kick is or was.
Right.
And people now are so much more into just music that the same things that hurt me 25 years ago, are actually helping me now. Because now everyone's like, what a bold, decision to do this and have a song like, Annalise next to this or whatever, and or have the, heavy this and this. And I'm like, wow, I kind of feel like I've been doing the same thing for 30 years. I didn't all of a sudden change everything. But I guess, most people now, I don't think, like, give a shit. I mean, it's like, oh, Lizzo, awesome. Metallica, great. New AC/DC, awesome. Dua Lipa, great. They just want good tunes that they dig, and I think that's helped me more than hurt me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree. It seems like, the younger generation, even my kids, their playlists that they put together are everything,
My son's, he's 20 years old. I don't even think he knows that AC/DC is in their 60s or 70s. Like, it's just like, that tune jams and this tune jams, and I like that, I like this. And no one thinks about it the way we probably thought about it when we were kids, because we were I think it's probably also because our attention span was so focused on just music, because that's really one of the only things we had. We didn't have Call of Duty and Xbox and 80 million channels on TV and Netflix. And so to them, music is one important part of 50 things going on in their life, as to where music was one very important part of maybe 2 or 3 things happening in our life.
Sure. Yep. I agree with that. So this kind of touching on the same thing that you already spoke of, but I think like grunge, I think, gets too much credit or blame, depending on which side you fall on, of kind of killing that glam metal, hair metal scene going on, because I think it was already changing. Like your old band, Saigon Kick, and Faith No More, Extreme, King's X, even Queensryche to a certain extent, were all, and Jane's Addiction was already out at that time before the grunge thing even started taking over. So I think it was just...
I agree. And funnily enough, I mean, bands that were huge in the grunge, Alice in Chains was a kind of glam hair metal band initially, and so was Pantera.
Yeah, Pantera. Yeah, definitely.
But they made the transition obviously a little bit smoother than we did, because we weren't as bright as those guys were. But at the end of the day, I mean, Jane's Addiction to me changed the game. That's my favorite band, probably. And that's the first, because I never felt like I was this hot guy that could wear spandex and jump around, and not that I wouldn't have.
Right.
I mean, if I was like ripped and had like long blonde hair and I'd have been a jumping around with my shirt off asshole.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't. I never could do it. So but I also liked heavier music, and at that time it didn't seem like there was an avenue for that. Like if you weren't in spandex and hot, you couldn't play in a rock band that made any sense to anybody.
Yep.
And then I wound up seeing Jane's Addiction open for Iggy Pop early on. So this was off the EP, I think the Triple X EP. And that's when I was like, oh my God, they're like heavy, but they're not singing about hot chicks and cars.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's something going on here. There's like this voodoo thing happening. So, you know, my objective was always to incorporate the things I loved about melodies like the Beatles or Queen or
Yep.
ELO or any of that stuff. And then that same type of tribal rhythmic thing and the energy and the rockness of, you know, that almost that Zeppelin factor that Jane's Addiction had.
Yeah.
Was really an eye-opener for me. And Soundgarden, to their credit, too, was way early.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
You know, the Loud Love record was, you know, far before the grunge scene kind of exploded.
Yeah, and that was heavy. That's almost, you know, that's metal, you know. I mean, that's, you know, people...
Yeah, with obviously with a brilliant singer, but when I heard those two things, that's where I was like, you know, not that Saigon Kick ever measured up to that, but those were the things where I was like, okay, if there is a home, there is a way to do rock that's not about just hot chicks,
right,
and fast cars, and still be aggressive and not have to be Flock of Seagulls or Depeche Mode. Nothing wrong. I like Flock of Seagulls and I like Depeche Mode.
Oh yeah,
that's what I did. So it was like I kind of saw that as a pivotal moment.
Yeah. Did Saigon Kick? Did you guys have pressure from the record label to fit in with that, to look a certain way? Or were you guys left alone?
We were left alone. I mean, Jason Flom
Really?
was our A&R guy, who's a legend.
Yep.
And you know, I don't think he knew what the hell we were doing. Because we were part of one thing and part of another thing.
Yeah.
Definitely, you know, I mean, we all grew up the same, listening to, you know, Motley Crue and Ozzy and Maiden, and
sure.
So we all came. So we had one foot in that, and then we had another foot in the Sugar Cubes, and you know, Jane's Addiction and those things. So it was kind of like, I don't know if he ever knew what we did. He's like, I remember his famous thing before we went in to see we did the first record, which did okay. It's like 150, 200,000 records. By today's standard, it's like as big as a record can be.
Yeah, that would be.
But back then it was like, all right.
Yeah.
And then we went through the second record, the Lizard record, and he came to my house and we were talking about music, and he's like, dude, I got to tell you, I have no idea what the fuck you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Like, just go do it. So, you know, we were left, you know, we weren't molded. All the horrible mistakes we made were ours.
That's good, yeah, because I've heard horror stories with other labels that, you know, they were just like, you know, you gotta, you know, dye your hair, grow it, you know, tease it out, all that stuff. Even a band like Dokken, where, you know, they were like, you know, they were pressured into looking like that on that Under Lock and Key.
Yeah, I mean, for me, not that, I mean, I wouldn't have, with this kind of face, I don't think anything would have happened any better for me with my hair teased out. But I always focused on making music that I wanted to make.
Yep.
And I was never really worried about being a rock star. Don't get me wrong. Having a hit record is better than not having a hit record.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, so, but when it went away after like that second record, and it was not our time, I wasn't devastated because it was nice to be recognized in the mall, but my life was not built around being recognized in the mall. My life was being around musicians, trying to be a better musician, writing songs and doing what I do.
Right.
And that's what's made me sustain myself, because if you stick around long enough, you're going to be the shit for a couple of years, and then you're going to be shit for a couple of years.
Yep.
And any genre. I mean, look at nu metal. I mean, you know, you couldn't have been bigger. And then now you can't be more hated.
Right, yeah.
But every genre is going to go through that. What winds up happening is that over time people go like, wait a minute, Def Leppard is fucking amazing.
Yeah, exactly. No matter what you want to label them.
Right. I mean, and sometimes it takes time because a genre gets so big that people get sick of it, and it's a natural backlash. But the good stuff will ultimately, stick around.
Yeah. Which brings me to Water. I think that is a classic album that to me it's timeless. It's Bowie. It's has a timeless feel. You don't listen to it and think of any specific era. At least I don't, no specific genre. It's, I love that record, but it's not.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, but it's not far off from your latest here. It's, to me, it's in that similar vein. Although this is probably more experimental than that, but
Yeah, I mean, I always just felt that way about music. I mean, so it's diversity has never been a thing where I've consciously had to think about it. It's just I really just like to. I couldn't play, and I admire the shit out of bands like we talked about AC/DC, who are amazing.
Yeah.
And they do that one thing they do so well that I'm happy to hear it like that, and I'm happy to hear, maybe bands like Maiden and things that do that thing so great.
Yep.
I've just never been able to keep my attention span long enough to do 10 of the same thing great.
Yeah.
I just can't bring myself to one, I can't bring myself to create it, and two, I can't do it. My head's just, I don't know if it's ADHD, which is all the rage to say you have. I don't know if it's that, or I don't know if it's that, or just I just like to be stimulated by new things all the time. So that's the way I think of things musically. So, but I'm super flattered that you like that record.
Gotcha. Yeah, and another record that you worked on. I don't know if you wrote the majority of it or not, but it was Super Transatlantic, Shuttlecock.
Yep.
Such a good record, man. Has there been any communication, any talk with the people? I know it was Pat Badger. Was it Franklin?
Ricky Sanders.
Okay.
On the drums, and he's on the new record, and so is Pat. Funny enough, so Pat and Ricky are on my new record.
Okay. Any talk about? Not that, I mean, I don't know. Any of doing another project with them? A second?
Pat and I and Ricky joke around all the time, like, we just don't feel it's safe to fill stadiums at this point with the Super Transatlantic reunion tour.
Right, yeah. That's true.
For the safety of humanity, we're pushing it off.
Yeah, that's too bad, though, because I love that record. But, yeah, and this isn't a question, it's just a statement. Well, listening to your new record, in my mind, it just popped up that I would love to hear your voice with Jerry Gaskill. I don't know if you.
Wow.
Yeah, I was thinking about that combination because you really like vocal harmonization, and I just put your two voices together in my head, and it was it was cool.
Who doesn't think those guys are obviously brilliant?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I had so much fun. Literally, like I got very lucky because I pulled together these group of friends, and they're all so talented, and there was also the most egoless, fun. Like, it just brought me back to all the things I loved about music when I was a kid, like just sitting in a garage with your buddies, even though obviously we weren't sitting in a garage.
Yeah.
But like that like, hey, I got this, and that's cool. And then, I can do that. Awesome. And it felt like that.
Nice.
So the idea of collaborating with, continuing to do the next phase of this with even more musicians and friends and brilliant people I respect is where my head's at. Because I seriously, regardless of how good the record does or doesn't do, I never had more fun in a creative process and be able to play with these kind of just A-level, just musical killers.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. Well, very cool. I won't don't want to keep you for any longer, but congratulations. Great record. Love it, and all the best of luck to you in the future.
Man, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me about it. I'm super glad and thankful that you liked the record. Good time to listen to it because I know in the day and age we live in, it's you're hammered with tons of stuff. So the fact that you took some time really does mean a lot, and I appreciate the support, man.
Oh, very cool. Not a problem. Thanks a lot.
Take care, buddy. Be safe.
All right, you too. All right, bye.